Listening to Jesus when he warns of Satanism is of utmost importance in today's world, where evil forces are increasingly prevalent. As the Son of God, Jesus has a deep understanding of the nature of Satan and his tactics, and his warnings serve as a guide for believers to navigate the spiritual battlefield. In the Bible, Jesus frequently cautions his followers about the dangers of Satanism, emphasizing the need for vigilance and discernment in a world where evil is often disguised as good. One of the primary reasons listening to Jesus' warnings about Satanism is crucial is that it helps believers to recognize the enemy's tactics. Satan is a master of deception, often masquerading as an angel of light to lead people astray. 2 Corinthians 11:14. Jesus warns his followers that Satan is a liar and a murderer, who seeks to steal, kill, and destroy. John 10:10. By understanding the nature of Satan's attacks, believers can be better equipped to resist his temptations and deceptions. For instance, Jesus teaches that Satan often uses temptation to lead people into sin, and that believers must be vigilant in their thoughts, words, and actions to avoid falling into his trap. Moreover, listening to Jesus' warnings about Satanism helps believers to understand the importance of spiritual warfare. The Bible teaches that believers are engaged in a spiritual battle against the forces of darkness, and that they must put on the whole armor of God to withstand the enemy's attacks. Ephesians 6:10-18. Jesus' teachings on Satanism emphasize the need for believers to be aware of the spiritual realm and to take an active role in resisting the enemy's advances. This involves putting on the armor of God, which includes the belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, and the helmet of salvation. By understanding the nature of spiritual warfare, believers can be better prepared to face the challenges of the enemy and to trust in God's power and protection. Additionally, listening to Jesus' warnings about Satanism helps believers to cultivate a deeper relationship with God. The Bible teaches that believers are children of God, and that they have been given the power to overcome the enemy through faith in Jesus Christ. 1 John 5:4. Jesus' teachings on Satanism emphasize the importance of abiding in him and trusting in his power to overcome the enemy. By listening to Jesus' warnings, believers can deepen their understanding of God's love and care for them, and can learn to trust in his sovereignty and protection. This, in turn, can lead to a more intimate and personal relationship with God, as believers learn to rely on his strength and guidance in the face of spiritual battles. Furthermore, listening to Jesus' warnings about Satanism is essential for believers to avoid the pitfall of spiritual complacency. The Bible warns that believers can become complacent and spiritually sleepy, leading to a lack of vigilance and a failure to recognize the enemy's attacks. Matthew 25:1-13. Jesus' teachings on Satanism serve as a wake-up call, reminding believers of the need to be alert and watchful in their spiritual lives. By listening to Jesus' warnings, believers can avoid the dangers of spiritual complacency and remain vigilant in their walk with God. In conclusion, listening to Jesus when he warns of Satanism is crucial for believers in today's world. By understanding the nature of Satan's tactics, recognizing the importance of spiritual warfare, cultivating a deeper relationship with God, and avoiding spiritual complacency, believers can navigate the spiritual battlefield with confidence and trust in God's power and protection. As Jesus teaches, believers must be aware of the enemy's schemes and trust in God's sovereignty to overcome them. By heeding Jesus' warnings, believers can live a life of victory and triumph over the forces of darkness, and can fulfill their calling to be salt and light in a world that desperately needs the gospel of Jesus Christ. Ultimately, listening to Jesus' warnings about Satanism is a matter of spiritual life and death, and believers must take his teaching seriously if they are to survive and thrive in a world that is increasingly hostile to the gospel.